What if I told you that we could step back in time and experience the most luxurious voyage in history? A journey that promised to redefine ocean travel forever, but instead became the most infamous maritime disaster of all time. Welcome to Andrew Restores History. Today, we're doing something extraordinary. Using cutting-edge AI reconstruction and historical records, we're going to give you a complete tour of the RMS Titanic's first-class accommodations. We'll board this magnificent ship, settle into our staterooms, dine in opulent restaurants, and experience the luxury that only the wealthiest passengers of 1912 could afford. But this isn't just a tour of beautiful rooms and elegant dinners. This is the story of 329 first-class passengers who boarded believing they were on an unsinkable ship. Some would survive, many would not. So adjust your top hat, straighten your evening gown, and join me as we step aboard the RMS Titanic on April 10, 1912. Before we board, you need to understand what made Titanic so revolutionary. At 882 feet long and weighing 46,328 tons, this was the largest moving object ever created by human hands. Her construction at Belfast's Harland and Wolff shipyard required 3 million rivets and over 15,000 workers for 3 years, costing $7.5 million. Over $200 million in today's money. Titanic featured electric lights throughout, 3 electric elevators, and engines generating 46,000 horsepower capable of pushing this massive vessel at 23 knots. But her real innovation was safety. She had 16 watertight compartments with doors that could be closed electronically from the bridge. Designers calculated she could float with 4 compartments flooded. Naval architects believed no accident could breach more than 4. This led Shipbuilder magazine to declare her practically unsinkable. The public soon dropped that word practically. By sailing day, she was simply known as the unsinkable ship. For first-class passengers, millionaires, aristocrats, celebrities, Titanic offered something unprecedented, crossing the Atlantic without sacrificing any luxury they enjoyed in their Fifth Avenue mansions. A first-class parlor suite cost $4,350, equivalent to over $120,000 today. For that price, you bought entry into the most exclusive floating club in the world. It's Wednesday morning, April 10, 1912. We're at Southampton, and Titanic towers above the dock like a floating cliff of steel. First-class passengers arrive in chauffeur-driven automobiles, accompanied by servants and mountains of luggage. The moment you step through the first-class entrance, you're greeted by Titanic's crown jewel, the Grand Staircase. This magnificent structure sweeps upward through 6 decks, illuminated by natural light pouring through an ornate wrought iron and glass dome overhead. At the main landing stands an intricate carved oak panel featuring a clock flanked by 2 figures representing honor and glory crowning time. Every detail screams opulence. Hand-carved oak paneling, elaborate scrollwork balustrades, cherubs and garlands on the newel posts, thick red carpeting, and massive crystal chandeliers. The Grand Staircase wasn't just functional, it was a stage. Every evening, first-class passengers would descend these stairs in formal wear. Men in white tie and tails, women in elaborate gowns dripping with jewels. It was a nightly fashion parade where you established your social standing. Imagine standing here that first evening. Around you are some of the most famous people in the world. John Jacob Astor IV, one of the richest men in America. Benjamin Guggenheim, the mining magnate. Isidore and Ida Strauss, owners of Macy's. Margaret Molly Brown. The elite of 2 continents all gathered on this floating palace. Let's explore the staterooms. Even a standard first-class cabin was extraordinary by 1912 standards. You have a private room with a real bed, brass fittings, fine linens, a sofa, dressing table with mirror, wardrobe, and wash basin with running water, both hot and cold. Electric heat, call buttons to summon stewards. The walls feature mahogany paneling or painted finishes. In 1912, most homes didn't have indoor plumbing, let alone hot running water. But if you were truly wealthy, someone like the Astors or Guggenheims, you'd book a parlor suite. These weren't just rooms, they were apartments. Suite B52, 54, and 56 consisted of 2 bedrooms, 2 walk-in wardrobes, a private bathroom with a full-size bathtub, a sitting room, and a private 50-foot promenade deck. The sitting rooms featured different period styles: Louis XV with ornate gilt furniture and silk walls, Italian Renaissance with carved walnut paneling, or English Regency with delicate classical furniture. The private bathrooms were revolutionary. Most ships had shared facilities, but Titanic's best suites had porcelain bathtubs, hot and cold running water, and heated towel racks. White Star Line employed 1 steward for every 3 first-class passengers. Your steward would unpack your luggage, press your clothes, draw your bath, and serve meals in your cabin if you preferred. You could ring at 3 in the morning for tea or a sandwich, and it would arrive within minutes. Now, let's talk about dining, because this was an elaborate, multi-hour affair that defined each day. The first-class dining saloon on D-deck was the largest room afloat, over 100 feet long, spanning the entire width of the ship, seating over 500 people. The room rose 3 stories high with ornate white-painted woodwork everywhere. Massive columns, elaborate ceiling plasterwork, crystal chandeliers, tables covered in white linens with bone china, crystal glassware, and silver cutlery, fresh flowers on every table. Let me walk you through the dinner menu from April 14, 1912, Titanic's last night. The meal began with hors d'oeuvres and oysters, then soup, consommé Olga or cream of barley. Next came poached salmon with mousseline sauce, then an entree of filet mignon, chicken lyonnaise, or vegetable marrow. But we're only halfway through. Next came roast duckling or sirloin of beef, followed by punch romaine to cleanse the palate. Then roast squab or cold asparagus, followed by desserts, peaches in chartreuse jelly, chocolate eclairs, French ice cream, Waldorf pudding. Finally, fresh fruits, cheeses, and coffee. This meal lasted 2 to 3 hours, served by waiters who moved with practiced precision. The wine steward recommended different wines for each course: French champagnes, German Rieslings, Italian Chiantis. The social ritual was as important as the food itself. Dress code was strictly enforced. Men wore white tie and tails. Women wore elaborate evening gowns requiring hours to put on and often needing a maid's assistance. For even more exclusivity, there was the à la carte restaurant, operated independently and featuring continental specialties like oysters, lobster thermidor, caviar, and foie gras. A meal here could cost what a third-class passenger paid for their entire ticket. After breakfast, let's explore the recreational facilities. The boat deck featured an enclosed promenade where you could walk while protected from wind and spray. Stewards set out deck chairs where passengers would sit bundled in blankets, reading or watching the ocean. The smoking room was an exclusively male space on A deck, designed in Georgian style with mahogany paneling inlaid with mother-of-pearl, stained glass windows, and leather chairs. This was where gentlemen retired after dinner for brandy, cigars, and cards. High-stakes poker games were common, with thousands of dollars changing hands. The smoking room stayed open until the early morning hours. For ladies, there was the reading and writing room, decorated in white Georgian paneling with comfortable chairs and writing desks. Large windows provided ocean views. Here, women could write letters, read, or engage in quiet conversation. Titanic also featured revolutionary amenities: a heated swimming pool on F deck, one of the first on any ship. The water was heated, filtered, and changed regularly. Swimming times were scheduled separately for men and women. Next to it was the Turkish bath, modeled after Istanbul and Cairo baths. Ornate blue and red tile work, hot rooms, cooling rooms, and a shampooing room where attendants would massage you. The Turkish bath cost extra, but offered an exotic experience few had encountered. The Gymnasium on the boat deck featured rowing machines, a mechanical horse simulating horseback riding, a mechanical camel, stationary bicycles, and electric vibrating machines. Physical instructor T.W. Macaulay offered classes and training sessions. Photographs show passengers in formal Edwardian clothing trying to use the equipment, women in long skirts attempting the mechanical horse, gentlemen in suits on rowing machines. The ship's orchestra, led by Wallace Hartley, performed daily in the reception room and gave concerts in the first-class lounge. They played classical music, ragtime, and light opera. The lounge itself was decorated in French Louis XV style, with ornate carved paneling, silk walls, elegant tapestry furniture, and a marble fireplace. This was perfect for afternoon tea or evening conversation. A typical day for a first-class passenger went like this: wake around 8 or 9 in the morning, ring for your steward to draw your bath and help you dress. Breakfast from 8 to 10, a full English breakfast or something lighter. After breakfast, a stroll on the promenade. Mornings were spent in various activities: gentlemen in the smoking room, ladies in the reading room, some visiting the Gymnasium or Turkish bath. By Sunday, April 14th, passengers had settled into this comfortable rhythm. The weather had been perfect: sunny skies, calm seas. Captain Smith was pleased with his ship's performance. Sunday service was held at 10:30 in the morning with Captain Smith leading prayers. After lunch, the temperature dropped noticeably. By evening, it was near freezing. The sky was clear, stars brilliant, the sea absolutely calm, like a mill pond. In the smoking room, passengers commented they'd never seen the ocean so still. Dinner that evening was the magnificent meal I described. The dining saloon was full of laughter and conversation. Everything was perfect. After dinner, passengers dispersed to their usual activities. Many retired early to their cabins. In the wireless room, operators were busy sending passenger messages. Throughout the day, they'd also received ice warnings from other ships reporting ice fields ahead. Captain Smith was aware and had altered course slightly south, but did not reduce speed. This was standard practice. Ships maintained speed and relied on lookouts to spot ice in time to avoid it. At 11:40 at night, everything changed. Lookouts. Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee had been on watch since 10. They didn't have binoculars. They'd gone missing in Southampton. At 11:39, Fleet saw something. A dark shape emerged from the darkness. A massive iceberg, perhaps 50 to 100 feet high above water. Fleet rang the warning bell 3 times and telephoned the bridge. Iceberg right ahead. First Officer Murdoch had perhaps 37 seconds to react. He ordered hard a starboard and signaled to reverse engines. But Titanic was 46,000 tons moving at 22 knots. She couldn't stop or turn quickly. At 11:40, Titanic's starboard side scraped along the iceberg for about 10 seconds. Most first-class passengers barely felt it, just a slight grinding sensation. In the smoking room, card games continued. In the lounge, conversations barely paused. But down in the boiler rooms, water began pouring in. Thomas Andrews, the ship's builder, was summoned. He completed his inspection around midnight. 6 forward compartments were breached. Water was pouring over the bulkheads. His conclusion was devastating: Titanic was sinking. She had maybe 90 minutes, perhaps 2 hours. At 12:05 in the morning, 25 minutes after the collision, Captain Smith ordered lifeboats loaded and evacuation prepared. Stewards woke passengers, telling them to put on life jackets and proceed to the boat deck. Most passengers thought this was ridiculous. The ship seemed fine, lights on, heat working, no alarms. But crew members were insistent. First-class passengers began emerging, confused and annoyed. Ladies in dressing gowns and fur coats, gentlemen in overcoats over pajamas. They climbed the grand staircase to the boat deck. The scene was surreal. The ship seemed fine. The orchestra played cheerful tunes. But there was a troubling tilt, a slight slope downward toward the bow. Officers began uncovering lifeboats. But there was confusion. Many crew had never conducted a proper drill. And there was a terrible problem. Titanic carried lifeboats for 1,178 people. There were over 2,200 aboard. Even if every boat filled to capacity, over 1,000 people had no way off the ship. Officers began loading lifeboats at 12:25. Second Officer Lightoller handled port side. First Officer Murdoch starboard side. But they interpreted orders differently. Lightoller allowed women and children only. Murdoch allowed men if no women were waiting. Lifeboat 7, the first lowered at 12:45, left with only 28 people. It could hold 65. Boat after boat lowered partially empty because passengers didn't believe the ship was really sinking, and officers feared boats might buckle if fully loaded while lowering. In first class, the scene was remarkable for its restraint. No stampede, no fighting. Social codes held firm. Gentlemen helped ladies into boats. Husbands kissed wives goodbye. Colonel John Jacob Astor IV helped his pregnant wife Madeline into Lifeboat 4. He asked if he could accompany her given her condition. Officer Lightoller refused. Astor stepped back and calmly lit a cigarette. He would not survive. Isidore and Ida Strauss were offered seats. Isidore refused to go ahead of younger men. Ida refused to leave her husband. We have lived together for many years. Where you go, I go. Witnesses saw them sitting together holding hands as water rose. Neither survived. Benjamin Guggenheim and his valet changed into full evening dress. We've dressed in our best and are prepared to go down like gentlemen. Neither survived. Margaret Molly Brown was forcibly placed into Lifeboat 6. As it lowered, she tried to organize passengers and argued with the quartermaster about going back to rescue people. Her bravery would earn her the nickname, the Unsinkable Molly Brown. Thomas Andrews was seen helping passengers find life jackets and throwing deck chairs overboard for people to cling to. One witness saw him near the end in the smoking room, standing alone, his life jacket discarded. He did not survive. The ship's orchestra played continuously. They started with cheerful ragtime, moved to waltzes, and finally played hymns. All 8 musicians died. By 1:30 in the morning, the bow was noticeably underwater. Third-class passengers, trapped below by locked gates and confusing passageways, finally began reaching the boat deck, but most boats were gone. In the wireless room, operators frantically sent distress signals. The Californian was only 10 miles away, but her operator had gone to bed. The Carpathia, 58 miles away, was racing at full speed, but couldn't arrive for 4 hours. Titanic fired distress rockets, brilliant white stars exploding high above. Officers on the Californian saw these but thought they were fireworks. They did nothing. By 2 in the morning, the bow was deep underwater. The stern was rising. Water lapped onto the boat deck. At 2:17, Titanic's lights went out. Engineers who'd stayed at their posts abandoned their stations. Then, at 2:18, something witnesses never forgot. The massive stern, towering high at a steep angle, could no longer support its weight. The ship broke apart with a sound like thunder. The forward section slipped beneath the surface. The stern splashed back down, paused, then slowly tilted upright until nearly vertical. Hundreds of people still clung to it or slid into the water. At 2:20 in the morning, the RMS Titanic disappeared into the Atlantic Ocean. The silence was broken by screams of over 1,500 people in 28-degree water. Within minutes, people lost consciousness. Within 15 to 30 minutes, most were dead from hypothermia. In the lifeboats, passengers faced a terrible choice. The boats had room, many were half empty. But most refused to go back, fearing desperate people would swamp them. Only one boat, Boat 14, commanded by 5th Officer Lowe, returned to search. He rescued 4 people. At 3:30, survivors saw green lights, the Carpathia firing rockets to signal she was coming. At 4 in the morning, she arrived. Captain Rostron had pushed his ship beyond normal speed, weaving through the ice field. The sun rose around 4:30, revealing devastation. Lifeboats scattered, icebergs everywhere, floating debris and hundreds of bodies. The Carpathia began picking up survivors. By 8:30 in the morning, all had been rescued, 705 people. Over 1,500 died. Captain Rostron held a brief service for the dead, then turned toward New York. The world's response was shock and disbelief. Investigations revealed multiple failures, too few lifeboats, inadequate training, warnings not communicated, speed not reduced despite ice danger, the Californians' failure to respond. But they also revealed extraordinary courage. Engineers at their posts, wireless operators sending calls until the water reached them, the orchestra playing to the end, passengers giving up seats so others might live. We've walked the decks of Titanic, experienced first-class luxury, and witnessed the tragedy that ended what should have been a new era in ocean travel. Titanic represented humanity's confidence in technology, our belief we could conquer nature. The sinking shattered that confidence. Of 329 first-class passengers, 199 survived, 60%. Of 285 second-class, 119 survived, 42%. Of 710 third-class, only 174 survived, 25%. The doors separating classes in life became death traps in death. If you've enjoyed this AI Reconstructed tour, please subscribe to Andrew Restores History. We use AI to bring the past to life, allowing you to experience history in ways impossible just years ago. Thank you for joining this journey. Remember to like, subscribe, and share with anyone who loves history.